Welcome to the Found Her podcast.
We are two women who knew nothing about starting a business, but with our faith and a lot of determination, we founded our company that has grown to over 7 figures in just 3 years.
We're sharing all that we've learned, our secrets to building a brand and a long-lasting foundation to gain time and financial freedom.
We're both moms to 4 kiddos, and through the peaks and valleys of being a business owner, we're finding our true purpose, and it's more than we ever imagined.
So join us as we get real and have some fun along the way.
Welcome.
Welcome back to you.
Thanks. Welcome back to you.
Where have you been?
So good to be here again.
Yeah, where have you been jetting off to
Fun.
this?
So we just got back. Me and my daughter got back from Phoenix.
Mhm.
We were there for 4 days, although it only took a couple of hours to tour our school, but we made a little trip out of it. Stayed with my sister.
You're like jumping right to it. Like, this is big.
I
You're like,
know.
oh yeah. And we just,
Oh,
we did
yeah.
that 2-hour school tour right in the middle. So talk
Yeah.
about it. Where'd you go and why'd you go out there?
So we visited Grand Canyon University, which is the largest Christian school actually in the country. And it was amazing. She loved it. She loved everything about it. She said she could see herself there.
I think you might be done on the college search.
Well, the only thing she says, though, is there's really no water. I mean, it's in the desert. It's really hot there. And I live on the lake. We're water girls. We're beach girls. She loves the ocean, surfing, like all that stuff is really, she's super passionate about that.
Right.
So the desert is dry.
There's pools.
There are like
survive.
5 pools on campus. So I feel like she would, and there's a lot of lakes there. There's like Havasu, there's
Right.
a lot of other lakes around. So she just has to decide.
Right. And she's going to come home in the summer, which is when y'all are on the lake anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
And
this is silly.
I think the school is more about an education than all of her extracurriculars. I think it's supposed to be actually about the school and learning. But you gotta look at the whole picture. I mean, she's looking at it as like 4 years of like her opportunity to live the life that she, wouldn't normally live. Which I get. I want her to have all the opportunities, but so we're still down to University of Hawaii and now Phoenix.
Oh my gosh. I think she needs to get University of Hawaii off her list because just the logistics of this, like you lose 2 days just in travel alone.
Well, I'm not joking when I say that I might have to get a job at the airport and work at like as a gate agent or something because I need to fly for free.
Yeah.
And she does
I told
too.
you I fully support this. This is fine.
I know. I might just have to get a little night job just so I can fly around.
It's your side hustle. Your side hustle turned your full hustle and now you need a new side hustle.
But I do love to travel. So it does kind of make sense if I could swing that.
Right.
But it was awesome. We got to see my sister and her 2 little ones, which was awesome.
That's great.
It's so beautiful out there.
Yeah.
I could see myself out here too. I don't blame her at all. It's gorgeous.
I think I've heard you say in the past like 4 days how many I can't even count how many times you said I think I want to live in Sedona.
Sedona is like it's so dreamy. Like it's just amazing. And especially after such a long cold winter here, just to be in like full sun all the time and know that that's the weather every single day. You never even have to check the forecast ever.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Is it going to be 102 or 99? Like it's always the same.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Anyway, so that was really good.
That's fine.
And now we're just right back in the grind of like,
yeah, she's got
everything.
Junior prom coming up. She's got a lot of things.
I know. It's really fun and exciting.
It's the year.
Super proud of her.
It's the year of Avery. The year of Avery.
Oh boy.
I'm excited for today too.
Oh my gosh. So exciting.
So we have a guest with us today, which is really, really exciting. And we'll just tell you a little story about how we actually were able to schedule our guest on our show. So we went to Atlanta. We've been a couple times, and we went to Atlanta this past January, and we were walking around, getting our day going. And I'm very strategic of like the plan when we get to Atlanta. I'm like, okay, we're going to go to the top, and then I want to walk all the way down of one building. And these are like, I don't know, it's 15 floors, maybe 18 floors. And it's not like it's like one vendor. You're talking about like 50 to 100 vendors, right? Some buildings. And so I remember we were going and it was like day 1 and we're like, all right, here we go. We go all the way up to where we wanted to go for the floor. And it was like, ding, the elevator opens and we walk right up. And I walk by the marketing. Well, first it catches my eye because I'll just spill a little bit of it. It's a cocktail. So I was like, oh, What's that?
We always stop for the free cocktail samples, always.
Well, and food, because they feed you so well. It's free drinks and it's free food everywhere you look. So it's good. And we time our stops at certain places now that we've been there a couple of times. We're like, oh, we're going to have lunch at Classic Home at 4:00 is also the happy hour. So we got to get to the bridge at 4.
Yeah.
But then we realized that was High Point. So anyways, we go off the elevator and we're walking, and immediately what catches my eye after the cocktail was the marketing. And immediately, I didn't know a thing about this brand. I'd never seen it before.
Nope.
Never tasted it before, but it was the mission and the values. And I was like, I don't even know what it is, but we got to go over here. And then we were there for about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we placed our order. And then we're such losers. We like walk away and we're like, get like 10 steps away. And we're like, we should have her on our podcast.
Yeah.
So like
she's amazing.
Yeah. So like the dorks that we are, we walk back like, hi, can you come on our podcast? We'd love for you to come on. And so we had it scheduled and then we had to reschedule it because of me and my eye. And now here we are.
I
So
know, we're so excited.
yeah, so we are super excited to introduce you to a guest that I'm sharing this again, that we had the pleasure of meeting in Atlanta. She founded the Southern Spirit, a handcrafted cocktail infusions company in Belleville, Texas. Not only is she a fellow female business owner and mother, but she is also a fellow Christian. She values God, family, and hospitality, and is vocal about God's word in her business. We are so excited to get to know her and her story more today. Everyone, meet Micah Griffin. Yeah.
Hi, how are y'all?
We are wonderful.
So good. Thank you so much for giving your time so we can enjoy you today.
Yeah, it's my privilege. I should have, I need a recording of that intro so I can play it for my kids and remind them, like, see, somebody thinks I'm really cool. No, I'm very, very flattered with that intro. Thank you very much.
We're excited.
You instantly made such an impression on us. So we're really honored that you're here today to talk about everything small business, starting it, living the dream.
All the things. Yeah.
All the things.
Well,
and you're truly actually like the first guest. We had our VA who was on, which of course she's our first guest, but guest other than someone that's affiliated with us. So yeah, that's really fun.
I know. We're so honored.
Oh, I'm so excited. I feel so I don't know, special and like I like some high executive that I am not. But I did watch that one with the VA and I'm like, I need to reach out to that. That's an excellent idea. I have all the questions. So
yeah. We'll get you connected to the right people and in 5 minutes and your life will be changed for sure.
So tell us a little bit about the Southern Spirit. How long have you been in business and what made you want to start this?
So the Southern Spirit is, we technically started in the thick of COVID. So go big or go home. So it was June of 2020. So by the time we had like wholesale and licensing and the website and it was all ready to go and we were about to just do this crazy launch and then there's COVID. So we pivoted and we launched online, which worked out. And I say we because I originally started this with my sister and her best friend, and I'm sure you guys can relate because you're just talking about college searches. Their kids are in high school and, I've got 2 summers left. I got 1 summer left. And this brand was, we were kind of taken off. And so it was like, I don't want to work that much. So, amicably, I just bought them out. So, but we originally started off as a home decor and gifts, retail store. And so it was really important for us at the time to feature and curate other local makers. So we brought in candles that were from Arlington, Texas, and they donated 5% to to fight human trafficking. And our wall art was from a family business in Franklin, Tennessee. And so it was really important that we shared everybody else's stories and supported other family businesses. And then we made, what we made was the cocktail infusions. So that's how it kind of got started. And then our brand kind of took off in a very God orchestrated, unexpected way. I call that year and a half unchartered and humbling. And so we've kind of started phasing out. We're more of a brand now than we are a retailer.
That's awesome.
And then that's how we met y'all in Atlanta. That was actually our very first show in Atlanta. So it was really exciting.
So exciting.
Oh, that's fun.
Do you still have a retail location?
So we still sell online. There is a particular, like a small location, about 45 minutes from us in Katy, Texas. It is kind of like a consignment store, if you will. It's a brand called Painted Tree, and what they do is they house a lot of other small businesses. So you can rent a space and you stock it, and you have an unique barcode, and so the consumer can go in and shop like over 100 different family businesses. I don't have to man it. I just have to stock it. The customer has one checkout, so they can get like 100 different things, and then of course at the end of the month they give us our check, of what we made, or what we sold. And so that was kind of my first foot in the door of brick and mortar without being a brick and mortar or the overhead expenses.
Exactly. So funny. Exactly the same. We didn't even know that our stories paralleled just like this, but it's literally exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? Oh, awesome.
I mean, we don't make cocktails. I mean, on the side, but not.
We make them for free for ourselves.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So we're still in Painted Tree. Other than that, we're online. And then once, like I said, the wholesale, the brand started taking off, then, we're phasing out of the home decor and the gift side, but we're really focusing on growing the Southern Spirit Cocktail Infusions.
Yeah. And how did you know cocktails were the thing that you wanted to lead with?
So for me, it was, I wanted to create a company, originally we still wanted to create something that paid homage or honor to my grandmother. Her name was Grace. And she always, taught us God first, family next, and hospitality always. And that, to have a servant heart and forgiveness, and that everybody has a seat at the table. In tandem, I have a food and beverage marketing background where I used to work in the agency world, and we would work with national hotel chains and fine dining restaurants and develop their wine menus and their cocktail programs. And so I had the pleasure of working with a lot of different mixologists in doing that. I will never say that I'm a mixologist because I don't want to devalue what they do, because it is so fascinating and an art and a science. And but I paid attention to what worked and what flavors complement, and the strategy behind it, which not a lot of people realize. Like, for example, the #1 cocktail in the nation is a margarita. So I wanted to create something, where we gather, it's fellowship, and we do that always usually in the kitchen, at the dinner table, the men by the grill, friends by the fire. And so I just kind of married the two, and then it was born. My husband, I will say, my husband Jeff, he came home with a piece of equipment on our kitchen island, and I was like, well, what is that? And he goes, it's a dehydrator. And I was like, well, that's great. You're going to do some beef jerky with the deer meat, or like, what's going on? Yeah. So he was really the one that championed it. He said, you can do this. You have this background, and you want to do something that shares your grandmother's legacy, and cocktails, like, you can do it. And so we gave it a shot, and I made 3 different flavors, because I was like, I don't even cook. I don't know what we're doing here. I don't bake. I don't cook. We eat Mexican out every single night. And so, it was really nice that you have a supportive husband that says, yes, you can, and let's do it, and let's try it. And so we did. And we launched the infusions in this, I don't know if y'all are familiar or whoever is listening, in Texas, there is a festival. It's like 15 days called the Round Top Show. Mm-hmm. It is a population of 87 people normally. And in that 2-week span, it literally is like over 100,000 people that come through. And it's just vendors and vendors upon vendors. And you can get some really cool antiques, or you can go shopping. I always say it's a ladies' spring break. Like, if you haven't done it, you guys need a plan. Yeah. Go get an Airbnb and stay. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. But we launched 3 flavors there. We didn't like sell out, but I didn't come back with a ton of inventory. So, the next show 6 months later, and that was like 300 cocktail infusions. The next show, I extrapolated the sales data, and I was like, all right, I'm going to bring 400. That's more than enough for 15 days. And we're only about 25 minutes from Round Top. So it's an easy day trip for us. And I was looking at our app, and I'm like, we're going to sell out on the 3rd day. And so I had every mom friend, aunt, cousin, my husband, everybody was at the house, just like assembling as fast as they could and getting them to me in Round Top. And we ended up selling over 1,000 that show. And then again, my husband was like, I think we're on to something, and I think we need to look into wholesaling. And so that way they can be in other retailers. And that's kind of how that kind of took off.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's really exciting. And then you must have freaked out just a little bit there. Like, how am I going to keep up with the demand? My guess is at that time you didn't have employees yet, because you were just getting friends and family to come and help. So I'm assuming after that you realized, wait a minute, we might need a little bit more structure, and this might be an actual real business here. What do we do next, right?
Yeah, so actually that's how my first employee started. You guys met her, Ashley, at Atlanta. So she was the first one that showed up and was like, assembling and making during the day while I was in Round Top. And she had another job, but it was only like a few days a week at a preschool. And so on the other day she was helping me, and that's kind of how that started. And I was like, yeah, really freaked out. Didn't know what to do next, except, if we were going to ship online and if we were going to go wholesale, then there's obviously some certifications. I couldn't make these out of the kitchen anymore under the food and cottage law. I needed to find a commercial kitchen to work out of. And we're in a very small rural area. So that was a bit of a challenge. So it kind of took several months, to get the food manufacturing license and find the commercial kitchen to rent. But that is where, like, God has just woven in and out and through that this entire time. There is a wedding event venue in our town, and it used to be a wine bar before this lovely couple bought it. And so they don't use their kitchen. And they're like, yeah, it's a commercial kitchen. Oh. Sure. And then I said, okay, how much per month? And I have tried to pay them for 2 years, and they wouldn't have it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Right. That's a God thing. I was just going to ask, like, how did you know it was God and not just coincidences, but things like that are just too obvious?
Yeah. It just happens like constantly, which is, just so amazing to experience. I used to never be a crier until I had kids. And so now I just cry at the drop of a hat. So thank you, hormones. So then they rented, like, they were able to do that. Well, then that's when we started making them in the commercial kitchen. We had all the certifications, and then we're like, we're going to give this wholesale thing a shot, and went to Dallas Market and Temps for the first time. And in January would have been a year ago. And so, I come in and, we did the Temps, and then there was a company that came, and a retailer, a friend of mine, that she had found me in Round Top. And I said, she was like, do you wholesale? And I said, well, we're working on it, but not technically yet. And she was like, I want to do this with you. And so I'm like, well, if you don't mind being our guinea pig, because I'm quite sure we will mess something up. And so we have no idea what we're doing. And so she's just, I mean, she was another godsend. So she came and saw us in Dallas, and then she's like, you really need to go and see this showroom, in Portico. And and then another lady said that, and then the wonderful ladies of Portico came and visited us. And so they kind of explain how it works when you work in a permanent showroom and you have a rep agency and all of the things. And I did my due diligence and kept calling different customers and the brands that are there. And I'm like, okay, good, bad, and the ugly, like pros, cons, and all of them said nothing but great things. And they would just always end with, you just have to ask yourself if you're ready. And I was like, I don't know.
What are you gonna
What does that?
Yeah, I think so.
What does that mean exactly? I'm not really sure. And they're like, well, it's not going to be like temps. Like you will grow and grow fast, and you need to be ready. And I'm like, I don't know that I'm ready. And so I didn't sign anything. And I was honest with them. I said, I really need to like sit on this for a minute and pray on it, because everybody's saying this and I don't know what that means. So then we came back from Dallas market in the January show, and it was about 2 weeks later, and I got an email or a voicemail from Good Morning America. And I really thought it was an email. That's right. Because I thought it was a spam. I was like, that's junk mail. Like somebody's saying they're with Good Morning America. And so I didn't respond. And then they reached out again, and I was like, maybe there's some, okay. And so I had a phone call with them, and they wanted to feature us on Good Morning America. And I asked them, and I'm mentioning this because it's one of those, like, just because it's offered doesn't mean it's a great idea or in alignment with, what God wants you to do. And so I asked her, and I said, well, how do y'all normally, like, how did you find us? We're like really tiny. And she explained that a friend of hers that she went to high school with had posted about us on his Facebook page. So we were not friends on Facebook, and they were a fellow vendor down the aisle from us at Temps. And he just on his own was talking about, the power of Instagram, because these nice young mid 20-year-olds were teaching me how to log in and do, the TikTok and where I needed to be. And they were so nice TikTok to help us with that. Yeah. And so, yes, shout out to Kanga Coolers and their team. They're so nice, incredibly gracious to help old 40-year-old me. And so I was like, oh, I had no idea that he did that. And that was so incredibly nice. And I said, well, how do you normally find vendors? And so they described that, PR companies pitch them. And so I'm like, well, that wasn't our case. So that's kind of how I knew this was God orchestrated. And I still was scared. I had no idea what that really meant. But it forced us to look at our kitchen and our production and efficiencies and shipping and fulfillment, because now we're about to be on national television, and in not a lot of time to do it. And so it was very fast and hard of like, I mean, we had Post-it notes on the stations, and we like practice like fake shipping and fulfillment of like, okay, and it takes about 2 minutes to box this, and then the first layer of peanuts, and then this, and then this. And it was just really insane. And then to your point, we had still not a lot of, there was only like 4 of us at the time. I mean, we're still in the kitchen and dehydrating and slicing and assembling, and we do all of that ourselves. And I'm like, wow. And so my friend Ashley and Reagan, they were like, okay, we timed it. We need for the next 3 days when we air 22 people every day just to assemble, unpack, and fulfill. And I'm like, A, I don't know that many people, and B, I don't know that I can afford to pay 22 people for 3 days for like 12 hours. So again, God showed up, and the community came out, and everybody volunteered 2 and 3 hours. And I mean, people were just rotating.
It's me goosebumps.
I know.
It's so crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we get that all the
Yeah.
time. How do you know if it's God, right? Like, how do you know that this is really what you're supposed to do? And then it's situations like that that are so incredibly obvious, and the opportunity is right there, and you just have to have the faith to walk, right? And then
Yeah.
he provides everything else. He provided all those volunteers to make that a success. That's amazing.
It was, yeah, that in of itself of just like people showing up and yes, and I'm going to be here after church for a couple hours, or I can do this. And I mean, I even had relatives come in from out of town to come and help. And it was just humbling, but also just fascinating to see him work through there. And then hindsight, you're going, oh my gosh, like we are way more efficient in the kitchen. We are way more efficient in shipping and fulfillment. And then I figured out, because when you do something like that on Good Morning America or something, a lot of time, you know, that, and you may or may not be familiar, but it's a like a deal. And so it's like 50% off. So you don't do it necessarily for the profit. I mean, you want to be profitable, but it's not as profitable. I mean, it's not like when you're selling, you know, full price.
Right.
And so I'm like, I just want to break even. This is just exposure and brand awareness. But what I realized was after that, and we learned how to be more efficient in all of the different, you know, facets of our product. Then I was ready for Portico. Then I was ready to go like full blown on wholesale and in a permanent showroom and you know, like the real deal instead of in temps. And it was kind of that aha moment of like, oh, that's why this happened.
Right.
So I can feel and confident going to Portico and go, okay, yes, now I'm ready. Now we can do it. Where's, you know, now I can sign the dotted line. So that was kind of neat to see it, you know, full circle.
Right. Because it forced you to get your efficiency, your team, it forced you to do all of that in such a short timeline that you wouldn't have normally done like that.
Right.
Not at all. I mean, I don't, you know, we probably would have figured it out by now, but on our own, you know, a year later, but yes, it definitely catapulted where we are today. And so that's, you know, again, this last like year and a half, the verse that always has rang true, and that is played over and over and over is, you know, we make our plans, but God directs our steps. Because like, I mean, I had no idea what we were doing. So I have never relied so much on like, okay, Jesus, like what is literally the next step? Which direction do we go? You know, that's like choose your own adventure books when I was a kid. I'm like, but I need to go on your adventure, not mine, because I don't know what I'm doing. And so, yeah, it was just really cool. And it has been cool. Like, you know, I've always been a believer. I've always tried to draw closer, but in this realm, like I have never been so close in my walk that it's just fascinating. It's just really amazing.
Well, because you cannot do this on your own. Like it's too big. It happened too fast. It was too much. So you need those obviously things to happen to show up, because like, I can't do this on my own. This is going to fail if I try to do this on my own. That's
absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah. One of the things that really struck us, when we first met was,
I think we talked about it a few days after, even still now, I think I just told the story like last week.
The boundaries that you have set
as a business owner
between being a mother and an entrepreneur. And I'm sure that when all of this exploded, you really had to set some boundaries, because now when it's successful, you know, you can just work 24/7. I mean, we all can. There's always things to do.
And sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, all of it's here right now. I'm going to lean into it. What about if it passes?
You're excited to grow. You think I've got to do this now. Like nobody else can do it but me. So
tell us about your boundaries and how you actually stayed true to them.
So I will say that I tempt myself, even just naturally, because like you said, it's just easier if I do it. Like, I'll just go ahead and do it. No big deal. Or you don't want to put that burden on somebody else because their plate's already full when something comes up. But so it is a tricky balance, and I feel like I fail at it all of the time. But just like in marriage, it's never like it makes me laugh when I hear people go, well, marriages are 50-50. And I'm like, no, they're not. They're not. They will never be 50-50. It might be 70-30. It might be 80-20 one day. It might be 90-10. And that spouse is going to carry a lot of heavy until it can, come up a little bit, and vice versa. Right. And 64, I mean, you could just do it all day long. And so with that, there are seasons that, like right now, we're in a season where my kids, I go pick them up in school and we're coming right back to the kitchen, and they're going to do their homework. So I can just try to get just one more hour. My daughter has tutoring online. And so, we just have to get really creative, but there are some non-negotiables. I'm not going to miss my kids' birthdays. I'm not going to miss my kids' activities, games, whatever it is that's important to them, field trips, and I'll ask them. Sometimes they surprise me and they don't care. Like, I don't care if you go on this field trip. Or like this week, my daughter's going on one for Texas history, and my father-in-law is a retired Texas history teacher. So she's like, do you think Papa could come? And I'm like, sure, absolutely. But I still struggle with it. I think, again, my faith, my husband, my children, those are non-negotiables. I have to get creative when I am out of town. Obviously FaceTime is great, and seeing my kids, but like Atlanta market, or Dallas market in January, falls on my son's birthday. So I came home for his birthday, was not going to miss it. And then the very next day we were flying out to Atlanta. And so it's just, you get creative like when you're on the road traveling too. So, I use the YouVersion Bible app to try to still do, whatever plan I'm on. I feel like I surround myself. I've got an amazing team where, we all know that that's important. So creatively, like Amy that worked with us in Atlanta, has a beautiful voice. And so on our Uber ride on the way to Atlanta, she's saying how great thou art. And I was like,
oh, great.
I know. And I'm like, you know what? We're shining God's light on the Uber driver. Like, she thought it was amazing. I was like, there's our church. God meets us where we are.
Yeah.
Sometimes
How big is your team? How big is your team now?
There's about 5 of us that are like full time, and then we have a lot of seasonal and part-time help. So we work with the local high school, and they have I called it a co-op program when I was in high school. They call it a work release, but basically we hire them and they come, but we have to shepherd them and give them real job training and teach them work ethic and and everything that goes in with working at a company. And so they help a lot. We have about 4 or 5 high school kids, and they're just amazing. I say kids, students. I shouldn't say kids. They may get mad at me. And yeah, they work really, really hard. And then we have people like Amy. So she's remote, but she knows, we actually met her. She was a temp at Portico. And so she will come in during the markets and work with them. And then after that, she went with us to Atlanta, and she knew how to write order. Like, she knows the back end. We hadn't done that yet. She knows our spiel because she was a temp the first year. So she'll come and travel with us when we need her to. And she's just an amazing person. So yeah, I think overall, off and on, in and out, we're about 10 to 12, and about 4 or 5 of us are full-time.
Yeah. And it seems like she was also brought to you
for a reason,
divinely, right?
Right.
She was, absolutely. And like, she's a pastor's daughter and this beautiful voice. And And she came, when she was there, she said, anytime Round Top or Nutcracker Market, like if y'all need help. And, I thought at the time it was like well, let's do lunch and we'll get something. And then you just never, it's just the thing you say. And then again, throughout the year, we got another God orchestrated deal. We got accepted into Nutcracker Market, which is usually like a 5-year waiting list to get to juried. But there's like, I don't know, 80,000, 90,000 people a lot of ladies that come in to the Houston Reliance Center and shop for Christmas stuff in November for like a period of 4 days. And when we were at market, I said, well, we'll never know unless we try. Like we can go ahead and submit our application. And then in 5 years, when hopefully they accept us, then we'll be ready. And so we shipped it. And well, you have to supply some samples. So I was like, well, it's Houston, it's 30 minutes away. I will just drop it off. Like, because I'm not going to ship it. I'm going to save money. And then it sat in my car for like a week. And I was like, okay, Ashley, I'm never going to get there. So just let's figure out how to ship it. And as soon as it arrived, apparently it arrived right when the board was going into a board meeting. And so they opened it in the board meeting and it was a resounding yes. And we got in immediately.
Oh.
And yeah.
That timing isn't a coincidence.
And so then I was like, oh no, now we need people because it's way different than Round Top. And luckily we had a retailer that we knew does Round Top and Nutcracker. So she knows the differences in both. And then it just so happened in the floor plan, she was going to be across from us. So, I mean, trends and traditions. I love Kelly and her team. She called and she's like, this is what you do. And this is what, don't do. And this is how you're going to have to lay it out because it is so fast paced. You're like doing transactions like on the second. Yeah. And so then I was like, we don't have enough people again. So we called Amy up and she's like, heck yeah, I'm coming, So she drove and came and stayed with us and yeah, just a godsend.
That's awesome.
What is your hiring process like? Do you, I know it's kind of crazy, but I mean,
very formal.
It sounds very formal. Well, like, how important, I guess, is it that everybody on your team aligns with your personal mission and values and the philosophy of the company as a whole? Because sometimes it's really hard to find those people that completely align with you, especially when you're growing at such a fast pace and you really just need people. How do you handle that?
Yeah, it's a real rigorous process.
Like, if you want to work, yes.
Right. Are you available?
Right.
Because
you have a heartbeat.
I'll teach you. I'll teach you about Jesus.
Whatever you need to
know. I will shine light while you are assembling. No, I laughed at that because we really don't have like this process. I think again, it goes back to just really, I mean, I've never stepped out of the boat on the water before so much in my life, like time and time and time and time again. And of course, he doesn't fail us. It might not be the route that we're going or the person we have in mind, but he's always provided. So for us, I think it's more about, we always try to go with who do you know? Is anybody that you know? Because if it's somebody that our team currently knows, it usually organically falls in line.
Right.
And then sometimes if it doesn't, for me, I have to look at it and go, but maybe they're still supposed to be here.
Right.
Maybe them being here is
they're there for a reason.
Not that they're there for a reason, and maybe they need some light. Maybe they need to be around other moms or the high school students need to have a safe place to go to, or whatever that is. And so it's not like well, are you a believer? Because if you're not a believer, you can't work here, because that would completely go against everything that we believe, right? So that is not a requirement by any stretch. It's just kind of, this is just in God's hands, and he's going to bring us the right people, and he's going to place the right people in our path. And that's kind of
Absolutely.
now, as we grow bigger, I'm sure I will have a little bit more formal process, like an actual formal interview with some real questions, instead of, yeah, you're good.
Oh, you're free tomorrow? Great.
Great.
Okay. That sounds good.
I don't know though.
Yeah.
I feel like, my background is corporate retail, and I've done a lot of interviews, and I've been a part of a hiring process, formal interview process, all of the thing, board, panel interviews, all of the things. And here we're very similar, right? Like we don't have this extensive process that we go through. Half the time we don't even talk to them, whoever joins us. But it's the same thing. It's a referral from somebody who already works with us, right? Because you're going to refer great people, and you're going to want to work with your friends. Or it's people that come to us, and we take a step back sometimes and just look around at the team, and we're like, wow, like God brought each person here for a reason. And it's like, we're not asking, do you believe all the things we believe? No, it's just natural that people that come, and then there's others for sure that stay, and you're like, and they'll even say like, I'm here for a reason. Like they know it, which is just really cool. And so we've put out our mission, values, and philosophy. Heather wrote it beautifully in the middle of a night shift one time. But it literally like lists, I'm like, they're front and center. They're at their cash wrap. They're on our website. Like, this is who we are. And that's it. Like, you know everything about us when you know our mission, values, and philosophy. And I think that he just brings you who you need when you need them.
Yeah. And, I really did struggle, when everything was kind of shifting and our brand was taking off, and we were kind of doing less of the gifts and the other, curating the other family businesses, because to me, I'm still attached to it. Like, I'm like, that just brings me so much joy that I'm helping other and telling customers other people's story, like Tally on candles. I mean, the fact that there's these two Texas boys that are making candles, and they're fighting human trafficking, but like every cent or 5% goes to their charity for that cause. And I'm like, I just love telling that story. It's not my story, it's their story. So I kind of was a little sad that we were taking this different route, unbeknownst to us, because I was like, well, I'm not like saving people. I mean, it's cocktail jars. So I'm like, we're not, I'm not saving lives. I don't do CPR. Like, I don't, I don't know. There's like, where's the purpose? And so, somebody, a good friend of mine, had to point it out. And then a fellow mom that now it works here full time. But at the time when we were doing GMA, I mean, I was calling anybody and everybody, and she would leave her full-time job that she had and only had like an hour, 2 hours between that and Carline, and would come and help for that hour, 2 hours. And then later she came and was like, I'm like, you're amazing. Everybody's telling me you're amazing. Like, what can we work out? But she was like, I just want to thank you, because I needed that decompressant before I get in Carline. And that was therapeutic to her, and to be around other moms, and just, we crank up the music, and we just, for the lack of a better term, we check out for a couple of hours. I mean, it's not rocket science what we do. It's slicing. We're hand dehydrating, this produce. I mean, anybody can do it. But again, I'm like, well, I didn't even realize that was happening. Like, that was a blessing, or that was a blessing to you. And so then it was kind of like, okay. And then he said, but you're also employing people. Like, you're giving them purpose. You're giving them something to do. You're giving them a paycheck, like, where they can help with their kids. Their kids gets to, do horseback riding lessons, or, whatever it is. So I had to kind of shift my perspective a little bit of like, okay, well, we might not be like saving lives, right? I'm not a doctor, but it, it's bringing a little bit more purpose than what I originally thought. And so that was nice for somebody else to point that out to me.
Yeah. And now you have a story. So you spent all that time telling other people's story, but now you have a story to tell. And We're big believers in that too, right? That we know we're here for a reason. We know our business started for a reason, and now it's our job to tell that story. And that's exactly what you're doing. So with that being said, and talking about growing, what do you have plans for more growth? Are you adding any new products or new line, or can you share any top secret?
Sure.
Top secret.
Top secret.
We won't tell anybody, we promise.
I know. I'm like, okay, yeah.
We're just
we
here.
do.
Nobody will hear this.
Right. So we're looking at different, I'm always looking at different things. I think, sidebar, I realized I am a perfectionist, but I didn't think this was perfectionism, because I grew up thinking that there's, I grew up playing sports. So, you go to practice to get better. There's always room for improvement. And I still believe that. So I'm like, there's always room for improvement. And then one day in the counseling session, the counselor, I told him a story and it like went awry real fast. And he just looked at my husband and he goes, is it like that all the time? And he goes, yep. He goes, you he goes, because that went south like super fast. And I think it was like a chaotic, my kid was in a stroller phase, right? Like that mom, like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. And anyway, and so I realized, yeah, I'm working on that. Like that, he's like, that's perfectionism, like you're a perfectionist. And I'm like, no, I'm not perfect. Like I'm not a perfectionist because I'm not perfect. And so anyway, I learned that actually is a trait for being a perfectionist. But we do try to always innovate. We are working on some things that those I probably can't share yet until they're a little bit further along. But we did launch a new flavor this spring, and it's a pineapple sundown. So it is dehydrated pineapple, it's cherries and vanilla organic infused sugar. And so you can do multiple things. It's our take on a pineapple upside down cake. But you can infuse it with bourbon and then make like a Kentucky lemonade. And then you can infuse it with rum and then top it with a little Prosecco and make it like a bubbly kind of martini / champagne cocktail, with or without the topping of the Prosecco. So, and we are launching a fall flavor. So you guys are actually going to be the first to know. I'll share this one because I'll share it. We're good. We'll do this. So it'll be available, and you guys will get to taste it if you're ever, I'm assuming we'll see you in Atlanta in the summertime, but it is called a spiced pear. So it is pear with star anise, a sliver of ginger, and the organic sugar. So we had so much fun with this one. This one is, you can do it with bourbon, you can do it with vodka, you can do it with tequila, like you can do it and then sip on it like just straight. And then even the other recipes we developed with it they're just going to be, I always say that, like, this is my new favorite. This is my favorite one. We just did the photo shoot with it to go in the wholesale catalog. And I'm like, this is my favorite photo. But it really is. It's so like, it's just crisp and so clean and I don't know. I'm in love with it. So I can't wait for you guys to try it.
This whole interview. I know.
I didn't think about that. I should have said
very disappointed in ourselves. I know. We should have definitely been drinking this whole time.
We'll edit it and we'll have a cup with us.
It really is so good.
So good. I typically would choose, if I had a choice, I would pick beer all day long. But after I'm such a sissy when it comes to alcohol. And I was like, oh my gosh, Heather, you need hurry up, try this one. This one's delicious. Oh my gosh, try this one. I love this one. I don't know what I love more. Then she left me alone to do the ordering. Never do that. One of everything.
We need them all.
It was like,
everything.
We need a strong presence. I want everything.
Mm-hmm. No, and we do carry we have in the past carried a few other, but this is
hands down the best one
by far, the best. So we've tried a few, so we can say this is the best.
Yeah, and I have to say, so I run the website and marketing, your marketing materials, I was like, oh, praise the Lord. Finally, someone that understands. The photos are good, all the different image sizes, the words and the copy. I was like, oh, thank you. So your marketing, all of that stuff that you give your wholesalers is amazing.
Oh, I love to hear that because again, we're so new to this space. So, and my always room for improvement. So I'm always asking resellers like, hey, if somebody else is doing something that we're not and you think it really works out, like please let us know, because we're always striving to be the best support system, not only to our customers that come direct to us, but especially our retailers. That's extremely important. In fact, we are working on kind of a sales training program for the retailers and their associates to incentivize their team to learn the story. I would say our biggest challenge, it may have been already a question that's coming up, so I may be jumping ahead, but our biggest challenge is, we have a story and we have to tell the story, and I'm not there to tell it and all the retailers. And so how do we make sure that that story is told? Not because we don't think the retailers can, it's just you guys are, busy and you have tons of brands and your own business to operate. So how can we simplify this and be in the best support system? And so we really came back from Atlanta, really brainstorming what that looks like. And so that hopefully we'll be able to launch that by the time, market hits again, so we can share that with everybody. But I love to hear that the marketing materials are helpful.
Yeah, you love that.
You should almost create like a template for other businesses that they can use. Like if you're a wholesaler, here is our media kit. Like this is what you plug and play, like fill in your own brand information, because we just started doing some downloadables and business templates, right? But as you were just talking, I'm like, it's another stream of revenue for you. But I'm like, this is something that, thinking about the work that's on our side, right? As the inventory comes in, and we are very passionate about telling the story and making sure we have a standard on our, with the photos that we use. And so you literally could, I wish I could take your guide and like give it to all of our people and be like, here, make like picture, do this, do this, use this tool. Because it's so helpful. So that's my advice. I'm not free advice from me today is that I think you should make this something that you sell to other retailers that can help their wholesale business. And it's something different for you. And because your background too, like you get it, so.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's one of those deals, like I did, marketing and advertising, years ago. I always say my other life, because it was corporate America. And then I started having, got married and having kids. And so I feel like that was a lifetime ago. And I had no idea that it would, have a role 10, 15 years later. So that's, to see that full circle as well is nice. And to know, like, I learned something.
Right. It stayed with you.
Yeah.
What would you say is your biggest obstacle as your team grows, as your business grows, being a mom, a wife, a business owner? Everything, every day.
I wrote like a whole list of like the pros and the cons of all the things. Yeah, I would say it's just, there's my husband and I were talking about this, and we knew when we wanted to do this and then had the opportunity to buy out my sister and our friend, like this was going to be something different, and this was going to be a lot. And oh, by the way, we're building a house. So like, and then we have the littles, right? We're in that season of ball games and practices and elementary age children. But what we didn't know, and it's kind of interesting, what we didn't know is, my husband is the protector, and so, he travels, so he's gone a lot for work. And so he's had to train me how to protect me and the kids and in the house when he's gone. And so, he's always security. His eyes are everywhere. My back's never to the door. Like, it's just the security kind of thing. And I'm more of the, emotional, like it's sensitive, oh, I'm helping, like, oh, that's great. All these moms get to like, check out for a couple of whatever. But all that to say, like, it's just an unsurmountable weight on your shoulders that you have this immediate family that you are now taking care of, right? Like your employees, and not just your employees, but those employees have kids and families, and what does that look like? And that, you want to make sure that they're taken care of. And because yes, we have been blessed beyond measure, but I mean, there are going to be times that, the cash flow is not that great that month, or, the market show wasn't the best market show, or, whatever that is. And so I'm not naive to think that, that's not going to happen. But it's just this weight of like, oh, now I'm these people, like I have to take care of these people, and they're not people. I mean, they're family. Yeah. But then like, my husband was saying that, but then also was, we're majority of us are women. So I'm like, well, in one of the kitchens that we worked at after the one that, let us use their kitchen and would never charge us, when we had Good Morning America, we still had all of our inventory in a storage unit. We were shipping out of a storage unit, and 30 minutes later, we outgrew that small kitchen. And so our realtor at the time also owned this older restaurant that they were going to do something with, but they were like, you got Good Morning America, like use the kitchen. And so we moved, and then he was like, and we'll move all the dining tables out in the dining area, and that's our warehouse. And so, cause I was driving like 30 minutes every, like, get the empty jars, come over to the kitchen, we'd assemble, and then I'd have to stack them back in the deal. And so, it's in a rural area, but it's right on this like main thoroughway. And so, when you live in a small town in the country and you see a bunch of cars at an old restaurant, people start coming in out of nowhere thinking it's a restaurant again, or they knock on the door and they, so there was like the security aspect of like, okay, I am, not only are these people our family, but like now I have to protect them physically, when these random strangers would come, and stranger danger. Yeah. So I felt like G.I. Jane, I'm like, okay, I pull up and I'm like seeing some random car and I'm texting somebody on the inside, everything okay? Do I need to come in with, Second Amendment, right? Like, what are we doing here? And so that's been just something I didn't expect. I wouldn't say it's the hardest. It's just a lot emotionally, I think, knowing that you are shepherding people. These people are, your family now, and it's not just I'm taking care of my kids, I'm taking care of like all of these, people, and what does that look like? And
thank you.
And how can we help them when they're going through a tough season?
I feel really overwhelmed now. Thank you so much for all of that. Now I feel this weight of responsibility.
Well, I'm actually really happy you said that, because I feel that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like we have people and it's their families. Like we are responsible for people's families like that.
I do think it's something that actually small business owners don't really talk about.
No, right?
Mm-mm. No,
and there's
no, not at all.
There's so many things, right? Corporate America, they're always going to be able to, provide paychecks and all this other stuff and lending. And sometimes when you're in a small business and cash flow is not super strong, banks aren't lending to you. And it's like, what do you do? Like poof, magic? No, like you have to be so smart and so close to your books, and every day is a risk, and carrying that weight is a lot. It's like a permanent backpack that I don't like.
Yeah.
Right.
But so here's the flip side of that.
Yeah.
That I have to remind myself, yes, it's a crazy amount of weight. And I think the other challenge kind of ties into what we've talked about earlier is, when do you turn that switch off, and when do you put the mom hat back on? I mean, you never take the mom hat off, but
right.
When you do that, but if we didn't feel that way, then we're not doing our job. Right. And it's like it's like a blessing to have that weight in that regard, because that means I care, right? Like we care. And they're not just a number. They're not just a ticket that they're punching in and out of their, the time clock or whatever. Like, because of that crazy weight that I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't expect it to be that heavy. that backpack to be weighing that much.
Yeah.
It's
I
just,
like it a little lighter.
but I'm like, okay, then that means we're doing the right thing, right?
Right.
We're doing the right thing. So
You know that
that's kind of the boss thing.
you've been given that responsibility for a reason, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this thing that I saw somewhere several years ago, and it was more about being a parent. But I loved it. And it's just always resonated with me. And it said, being a parent is the toughest privilege that I know and love. And it really is. It's the toughest privilege because we really don't know what the heck we're doing most of the time. And so it kind of the same thing. Like, this is the toughest privilege that I have. Like, my husband and I are so blessed and thankful for the opportunity to share the Southern spirit and what that really means. And it is a feeling of invitation. It is a feeling that everybody has a seat at the table, and it is sharing God's light. Ironically, I know it's through Cocktail Infusions. They do make mocktails. So I grew up Baptist, so they make mocktails. But it's the vessel, like this jar, like this is the vessel. It's the Southern spirit is not the jar. The Southern spirit is the attitude and really trying to share and get as many people back to having that welcoming and kind and love thy neighbor. And we always, with every purchase, we donate 5% back to charity. We have certain charities that we rotate throughout the year. Another one that my dad just sent me, and I think you guys will appreciate this, and it kind of was like a gut check, but he said, to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be comfortable dealing with a level of stress that would break most people. And man, have we almost broken, right?
We're like crickets. We're like, okay. Yep.
That hit home so hard. And he's been like, he's my best and honest employee ever. He's had his own company. He's just been an incredible mentor. And when he sent that, I was like, you're right. Like that hit home. Like, it really does. And it, but it's also a blessing. So, and I'm learning so much from it. But yeah, those are the cons. Those would be the challenges.
Right. It's harder than you ever imagined it could be.
Yeah.
But also really rewarding
but great reward, right? Great reward.
And it's all about your mindset. Like, you even just showed it, right? Even if it is an obstacle, it's just in how you look at it, right? Like, just, it doesn't have to be an obstacle. You're going to recognize it might be, but you're going to approach it differently.
And you're not doing it alone.
No.
So
Nope.
No, not at all.
Right. Exactly. Oh, this has been so fun.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So we've talked so much about like where you are today and where do you want to go? But if you were to just look back to yourself in the very, very beginning and you could tell yourself one thing, what would you tell yourself?
Oh,
Or to another woman business owner, that's just starting out or maybe afraid to start.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, picture, I know this sounds really redundant or repetitive, but I can't hone in on it enough, but you have to fix your eyes on Jesus. And even if that's just 2 minutes a day, even if it's the YouVersion app, even if it's just the verse of the day or something that you have to keep God first and you have to keep family next. And if you can align that with those, it will fall into place. Now he gave us brains. And so you just, pray for the right people to be in your path because you can learn such a great deal. If I had to close the doors tomorrow, like, I already won because of how much I've had to depend and rely on his direction in every business aspect. And if I didn't have that, I really think the doors would have already, I'm sure I would have screwed it up royally, in a very fast manner. I would say, my advice to anybody that's doing this or just starting out, which is really uncomfortable for me to say because I still feel like don't know what I'm doing or starting out, but I would say, get a mentor, and it doesn't have to be somebody I would say find somebody that's like 5 years ahead of you. I wish I would have done that. My father is obviously several years in that, having his own company, but I wish I would have tapped into that probably in the very beginning with him, just his wealth of knowledge. But it could be listening to a podcast. It could be, somebody else, like just, hey, other retailers, or I'm just got a quick question. I think that's really important to see somebody that's already kind of gone through the weeds. About 5 years. If it's less than that, they're probably, just barely ahead of you. But if you get 5 plus 10 years and then go, okay, this is what you need to do. And this is what you, more importantly, don't do this.
Right.
I think that's really important. I listen to leadership podcasts because I've never led a team in this magnitude before. And so to me, that's been more helpful than anything.
Do you have a favorite one?
I do. So I listen to Craig Groeschel. He is a lead pastor of Life Church. So I listen to the church podcast, but then he has a leadership one on like being an owner or CEO and how to lead your team. And there's so much that I've learned. Like we just did a photo shoot and I'm super particular, and somebody did something and said it, and I was like, but that doesn't make, and I go, nope, it's going to be okay. And they're like, you hate it. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's going to be great. I'm letting go.
Oh boy. I think I really need to learn from that, because that sounds like me.
Yeah. I remember we talked about these podcasts. I started following them like right when we were talking, and I've listened to it a few times, but I got to get back to it. I haven't, but I remember you like raving about the leadership one in particular.
Yeah. That one is just, it's just really good. And it's tactical. Like some of the stuff is very, very tangible and tactical. It's not like this metaphorical or philosophy where you're like, what do I do tomorrow with that information? I would say, I would also say anything on finances, right? Like marketing and anything industry, specific. So whatever that is for that person, but finances, oh my gosh, like if I would have learned how to read a P&L or how to structure and organize our chart of accounts a lot earlier on, then I think I would have been able to make smarter decisions to help us grow. I just try to learn what the normal categories are, but our company is so different and specific that it took us a minute to go, okay, but I really need to see it this way so then I can understand the health. And it's kind of like what you said, you have to be so close to the books. And if you don't understand the financial side of things and operating a company, and it's really going to be a lot harder than it has to be. And then tools and investments. Like I cannot stress enough, like go ahead and get QuickBooks or whatever accounting software. Like don't try to do it by yourself or on your own until you absolutely have to, because that was very costly for us when we did that. And then, an email marketing provider like Klaviyo is who we use. And then, Canva. So from a marketing background, I cringe when I say Canva because I feel like all my art director friends are like, no. But for social media, when you need something quick and easy, just pay the subscription and do it.
It's come a long way.
And it really has. And then it's almost kind of foolproof, like dummy proof. Like I can't mess it up too horribly bad. And then I say investments, but I'm a strong proponent of like, your first big stuff that you're going to have to invest in, like invest in the bookkeeper, unless you just happen to have one, like a background in accounting and you want to do the books, but like get the bookkeeper to handle it for you. Get marketing. Like you have to set aside a certain amount even if you're not going to use it right away, but just start, like, make it a savings account or something and just move 5% over. So when you really need to pull the trigger on some marketing and getting the conversions on your website or whatever it is, like, you have it, and then so you can be ahead of the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that
That's
advice
what I would
about a mentor also.
I know, right?
Because I feel like people who are a little bit ahead of you have so much knowledge. And I just feel like we just keep it to ourselves.
I know. I mean, I want to mentor.
We still want to mentor.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I realize, like, and I feel like I could probably learn a ton from y'all, because y'all been doing, in the retail space a long time. I mean, a lot longer than me, but yeah, I wish I would have done that a lot sooner. And so I would try to find one of those.
I feel like that's
fast.
good advice.
Really good advice. Might be my
Yeah.
next goal.
We don't have to do it alone to get a mentor.
Yeah. I might do that. I got to finish reading my book that I'm reading right now, but then I might do that. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, now we're gonna go for a fun question. If you could only drink one of your mixes for the rest of your life, which one are you drinking?
For the rest of her life?
And just one?
Just one. You could do one seasonally. You could do a summer one and a winter one.
Oh, that is really hard. Coming from, yeah. Okay. So, I would say, ironically, because there's a story behind this one, but I would say the old fashioned.
I remember
say the
having the old fashioned. It's good.
It's a classic.
It is a classic.
I didn't know I liked old fashions until we were developing the old fashioned, and I kept getting asked to make an old fashioned. It's the only one. If you look at our lineup, everything I always say is a flavor profile, because you can do more than one cocktail recipe with them. But the old fashioned is a recipe in itself, so it's a very specific to an actual cocktail and not like a flavor profile. But I kept getting asked to make one, and I didn't want to, because if you are an old fashioned drinker, you're very particular on how that tastes. And I just thought that was setting us up for failure. So for like almost 6 to 8 months, they're like, when are you gonna make an old fashioned? I'm like, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then I finally gave it a shot, and only had old fashioned men and female, like, women drinkers. That's what they drink. That's their drink. They were the only ones testing it. It wasn't like somebody else, like, oh, I think that might taste good. Nope, it has to. And I thought it was only going to be a seasonal for the fall. And then now it's one of our number one sellers. It goes neck and neck with the mango habanero. So we've left it obviously year round. But and somebody gifted one to a gentleman in the Northeast, and he messaged us on Instagram, and he said, and I didn't know this existed, but he is a professor at Whiskey University. And he said that was yeah, I know, right? Like, I want to go to that school. Right. And he said somebody gifted it to him. He tried it, and he said that was the best old fashioned he has ever had. And of course, and so I'm like, that is like the biggest honor in my entire life on our cocktail journey, because I originally wasn't going to do it. So it was the flavor that almost never existed.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
We just looked it up. It's a real thing.
Whiskey University is real.
Yeah. It's like Pennsylvania, right? Or somewhere Northeast, I think.
Tennessee. Tennessee.
Oh,
history and taste. Their like tagline on Instagram, where history and taste combine.
Oh, I love that.
I know.
I like that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so that one's a really good one. Our mango habanero is just a little sentimental, but it's our number one seller, because margarita's number one cocktail, and I knew I needed a margarita.
Yep. That's my jam.
And yeah, that one I knew I needed. Everybody does, like, stuff with jalapeno. And I wanted to do something different, but I wasn't sure what. And at the time, my father was going through chemo treatments for cancer, and he was eating very clean. Like, it was in the middle of, we're kind of rounding out of COVID, but still couldn't go anywhere, because he was in the middle of chemo and his immune system, but he wanted to eat very, very clean. So we're basically like pescatarians. And I'm like, I got this. I will grill the fish. I will do all the things. And then I came to him and I was like, Dad, there's only so many ways that I can make halibut and salmon and mahi. And so he pulled out this seasoned rub, and he was like, well, I don't know, let's try this mango habanero seasoning. And that's kind of where I was like, I'm going to dehydrate mango and habanero and see if it works. And of course it did, because it was our first #1 seller. I mean, it's still holding strong, super classic flavor, but it also tastes really good on the salmon and the halibut and and all the fish too. So it worked out.
Try that.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Tell us where everyone can find you.
Yes. And can people buy direct from you, or should they buy?
Absolutely. They can. They can certainly buy at our retailers like you guys. But you can go to theSouthernSpirit.com and check out our flavors there. We're working on some things, hopefully by in the next 3 or 4 months, where we'll be doing some fun things with them, but you can check out all the flavors there.
Awesome. Where can we find you on social media?
So we are at Southern Spirit Home on Instagram and Facebook. And then the TikTok is, I think it's at, and then _Southern_Spirit. I don't know. The Kega Cooler guy set it up, so I need to go look at what that is. I know it's a little bit different than Instagram because it was already taken, my other one. But
we'll plug it all in to make sure it's super clear where to find you. So it'll be nice and clear.
I know.
This was so fun. I could talk to you for like days. Like we could just sit and
I know.
Yeah.
I kind of have that problem. I rattle. But I wanted to say, I saw your podcast. I don't remember which episode it was, but one of the things that's really important to us is that we always give back. That is the whole reason we started the Southern Spirit. And so that's part of that Love Thy Neighbor. So we always donate 5%. We're always adding and rotating charities. And we're kind of structuring it a little bit different. Originally it was, well, whatever, March is Colon Cancer Awareness Month, so proceeds will go to that one for March. But I didn't really find that fair to the other charities that were like in the summertime, because retail in the summer is a little bit different than obviously Christmas time. So we're going to do it like at the end of the year and take certain charities and divide them out. And if it's okay with you, we would like to add Trust the Light to that.
Now she's going to cry. She doesn't cry ever.
I would love it. It's amazing. So, yeah.
So, yes, I listened to that. My mother-in-law has dementia. My uncle had it. And so it's one of those that is near and dear and hits home with us, just like the colon cancer and the other charities that there's usually a story behind each one. And it's usually somebody else that has said, hey, this is what we're doing. And it's a story like their child has this or whatever it is. But anyway, and I've been looking for something in honor of my mother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I heard that one, I was like, oh, this is it. This is the one. Yeah. Because my father-in-law is the caregiver, and it's a lot, and I've watched it, and I don't envy anybody that has to do that, or anybody that has obviously the disease, or anybody that has to care for them. So I think it's amazing that you did that, and we would love to partner with you on it.
Gosh, I literally I have no words, but I'm excited. And
I didn't think we would be ending this in tears, though.
Me neither. But yeah, I would love for that, and really excited. And we're, it's so new to us, and just to see how much we've done, the text messages that I've received and the stories from people, and there's a need out there. And we're gonna figure it out, and I don't know what we're gonna do, but we're gonna make it happen, and we're gonna be there to help them. So
I love that. And it's so amazing. Like when we do markets or we do Round Top or Nutcracker or whatever it is, we always talk about the charity, that we donate. And if given opportunity, then I get to share that particular one if somebody asks. And so to me, more important than any of it. I've gotten to see a lot of cool things come out of it, whether that's, somebody we donate to Stuff the Sleigh that helps pediatric cancer patients and their families. And they were at Round Top and she's like, oh my gosh, my nephew just got diagnosed. How do I get in contact with them? And I was able to connect them. The other one was, we're looking for homecoming dresses and, or they're looking for homecoming dresses. And she's like, I own a boutique. And I have dresses, I'm going to ship them so they could, the patients could have a homecoming. And, different things like that. So like, to me, like that's the Southern spirit, like that's what we do this for. And if, another time somebody, like I get to bring awareness that it is about the caregiver, like that is hard on them and how can we give them support? Or, through my dad's journey and colon cancer and it runs 3 generations. I mean, some ladies were, several different groups were like, oh my gosh, my friend is going through the surgery next week. And I'm not one, I haven't been one to you just praying on the spot. That used to make me sweat profusely. And, and I mean, I'm like, nope, I can't do this. And I said, can I pray for her? What's her name? I will be praying for her. And she told me her name and then something it was like having a hot flash. And then it just hit me and it was like, do it now. And I was like, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. And so I did. I mean, I was shaking and I was like, hey, and I went back over there. And so I got to pray with these ladies and for them in our booth at Round Top. And it was just amazing because she was having that surgery like in that, next day or something like that. And so later on in the week, because, these ladies will stay for a whole week, and she came back by. She was like, I just want to let you know that she made it out and everything's good. We think they got it all, just gave me the update. She was nice enough to come and, so we could see the power of prayer. So it was just, to me, that's the Southern spirit. Like, I can't wait to have these like big, gigantic checks and it's got this big, gigantic number. And, but we have to sell gigantic amounts of jars. And we will.
Yeah, okay.
That's okay. You will.
If that's the plan, it'll happen.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Awesome.
so fun. I hope we get to see you again in Atlanta, or maybe you should just come up here and give a live tasting.
Yeah,
Right?
right?
Ooh, that would be
so much fun. So much fun.
I mean, I heard you're by the water, so that's my therapy. I don't know why we got land in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Like we should have been by the water.
Come to the ocean.
Right?
Yeah.
Ocean. Oh my gosh. Awesome. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to be there in July, but we'll definitely see you in January for sure. We'll be there.
Awesome. Well, very cool. Well, thank you guys so much for having me and allowing me the opportunity to share what the Southern spirit is. This has been truly a treat.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everything and really excited for all the things we're going to do together too.